Press the bell icon on YouTube and don't miss another update.
Namaskar. Welcome to another episode of Editorial. Congress is not an effective opponent. It is not an effective opposition, says Kapil Sibal. Congress does not exist or is very weak in the grassroots, says P. Chidambaram. Now, all these suggestions, all these point of views are actually quite valid. And all of them says that, listen, you know what, we are not talking against Gandhi Baba. So then, who are these people trying to blame, put the blame on? When Kapil Sibal says that the organization, Congress is not an opposition anymore, who is he saying this to? So the question we will ask tonight is, are the Gandhis responsible for the Congress current situation? That's the question we'll ask tonight, and let's try and find the answer. Let's get into the show. If you remember, back in August, 23 leaders, now called the G23, nice name, 23 leaders had written a letter to the Congress Working Committee. Now, according to them, they were putting up their grievances in front of the Congress Working Committee. But technically speaking, like all of us understood, the grievance was in front of the Gandhis. They were going in front of Rahul Gandhi and Sonia Gandhi and saying that these are the problems, you sorted, Baba. Now, there are 6 problems broadly, 6 problems that they brought about. There is a full editorial I have given on that, so you can see that editorial. I will I will attach the link to this editorial. But there are 6 broad problems. Problem I will tell you quickly. One was, they said that they require a full-time leader, which is very important. They said that you should have an independent authority to conduct polls for the presidency and other Congress leadership. So there should be independent authority who will conduct polls. They said that CWC is a toothless tiger, so you need to have elections for CWC immediately. They said that elections for local Pradesh, blocks and all should be conducted because that's very important. Otherwise, the ground level functioning will not happen. They said that there should be collective leadership. It should not be one person's decision or two people's decision. There should be collective leadership. And last but not the least, they said that, you see, like-minded parties should be brought together and they should be having a coalition. This is what broadly they said. So I said it quickly. Was what they said, was it wrong? Absolutely not. What these gentlemen said, these 23 people said were absolutely correct. Now the question is, who is supposed to solve this? Who is supposed to solve this issue? One, according to them, they themselves, that CWC and all doesn't function here, toothless tiger. They themselves agree to that. So who is supposed to solve it? So technically speaking, all these 23 gentlemen put together are putting this up to Mrs. Sonia Gandhi or Mr. Rahul Gandhi, saying that, bhaiya, ye hamara problem hai, solve karo. Now, the first thing is Congress Gandhis? Is Gandhi equals Congress and Congress equals Gandhis? Because currently it looks that way. Now, just before I get into the actual story, let me just dwell and take you through some statistics, just for our knowledge. You see, Congress has been in existence for 135 years. In 135 years, 42 of these 135 years, they had a Congress, the Congress had a Gandhi president. Motilal Nehru, 2 years in 1919 and 1928. Jawaharlal Nehru, 5 years in 1929-30 and 1936-37 and 1951-54. So Jawaharlal Nehru, 5 years. Indira Gandhi, 7 years, 1952 to 1960 and then 1978 to 1984. Rajiv Gandhi for 6 years, that is 1985 to 1991 for 6 years. Then Sonia Gandhi for 20 years. From 1998 to 2017 and from 2019 to 2020 currently. Rahul Gandhi for 2 years from 2017 to 2019. So out of 135 years, 42 years were Gandhis. And if you actually see Rajiv Gandhi, Sonia Gandhi and Rahul Gandhi put together, have taken up almost 28 out of those 42 years of Gandhi rule, Gandhi presidency in Congress. And if you look at sheer Sonia Gandhi and Rahul Gandhi, those two put together has taken up 22 years of the presidency in Congress. So 22 years out of the 135 years has been just ruled by Sonia Gandhi and Rahul Gandhi. Okay. Now my questions. While all these gentlemen, whatever they say, they are absolutely correct. They are absolutely correct, and what they are saying is also making sense. But then, you see, the problem that I see with congressmen and a lot of congressmen is that somewhere down the line, you know, in cricket for instance, you have commentators and you have players. ठीक है ना? So player play the game and commentator sits in that box and says, "Arey, that ball should have been flicked to the right. It was flicked to the left. Wrong shot. That is why you got caught. Very bad." A commentator's job. Cricketers, players go play the game. See, most of the Congress leaders, especially people like Chidambaram, and I'll tell you why I say especially people like Chidambaram, you see, they play two roles. So when the going is good, they are all players. They stand there with a bat and with a pad to play. But when the going is bad, they all come back to the commentator's box and they start giving commentary. "Ye galat tha, ye ball udhar marna chahiye tha, ye idhar mara." See, somewhere down the line, if there is a flaw, if there has been an issue, what have you as a senior person, as a person who was a home minister, as a person who was a finance minister of Congress, what have you done to change it? And I ask most of the Congress senior leaders, if 22 out of your 135 years and the 22 of the last 30 years of Congress has been ruled by Gandhis, whose fault it is? That means all these leaders who are giving all these gyans had no capability to run a party like Congress. You can sit in the cart and say, "Arey, ye kharab hai, wo kharab hai, ye kharab hai." But is there one person in this entire 23 people who have said that, "Hang on, starting tomorrow, I will take over as the president. Give me an opportunity." Call for a press conference. Say, "I will take over as a president. Give me an opportunity. I will change the fate of Congress." Does anybody in this 23 people say? No, a lot of us, you all will say, "Oh, it is not practical. It doesn't work that way. Because Congress cannot be run without Gandhis." Why couldn't Congress be run without Gandhis? Because Motilal Nehru, Jawaharlal Nehru and Indira Gandhi put together have not even had been in the presidency for 14 years. That means 100 years mein, there were not even 14 years of Gandhi rule as president. There are other people who are running Congress. So, which means at some point in time, you had people who just didn't want to take the responsibility of Congress. Just didn't want to take the responsibility of running Congress. So, they always thought, "I will put the blame on somebody else." So, there was a horse called Rahul Gandhi or a Sonia Gandhi, where when they win, everybody goes and touches the cup. But when they lose, I think, "Kya yaar, bhagne ko nahi aata hai. I tell you na, they can't run." Isn't that the way it is looking? Number one. Number two is no way that I am saying that Congress leadership is good. No way I am saying this. Congress leadership is absolutely, there's a lot to be desired from Congress leadership. Sonia Gandhi is unwell. Give her that leeway. She cannot run the show. Why is she in the seat? One doesn't know. Why did these people make her sit in that seat? One doesn't know. Rahul Gandhi is blow hot, blow cold. Sometimes he peaks his performance and sometimes he goes down, like one wonders what is happening. So there is no consistency for Rahul Gandhi. His intentions are good. I said it then, I say it now. The man's intentions are very good. I also believe that he has got good wisdom also. I believe that. And I am saying it. The man is quite wise in certain things. But the fact remains that he is not a leader compared to what? Compared to a Narendra Modi? No, he is not. But then, who else? So all these gentlemen who sit on the fence and say that wo barabar nahi hua, our ground level staff and all is not very working, Baba. It is all either gone or poor or whatever. All these gentlemen know who say. One of these people, do they have the guts to go out and say that I will fight Rahul Gandhi, I will fight Narendra Modi in the elections, I will do that? That nobody has. You see, the problem with most of Congress leaders, most of the Congress leaders, including Rahul Gandhi also, that they are still in that coterie, they still, most of these, and believe me, we are on ground, so we see them. And I hope some Congress leaders are also watching this. You see, most of these leaders, they still think they are ministers. You see, the people who are talking about ground level, what have they done to ensure that ground level Congress activities, ground level staff, ground level workers of Congress are kept happy? What have they done? They have done sweet nothing. So the point that I am trying to make is Congress party needs a change, there is no doubt. Congress party needs a change in the leadership, absolutely no doubt. But Congress party also needs a change in attitude. And change in attitude to the last common denominator of Congress. The last common denominator of Congress worker should be seen with the change of attitude. And the first thing that I think the Congress leadership should call all their so-called senior leaders and say, ask them to repeat 100 times that we are common people, we are no longer ministers, we are no longer VIPs, our security and all is because we were ministers at some time, so it is continuing, but we are no longer VIPs. They should be made to repeat this 100 times. And that has to get into their mind and they should start behaving like normal people. And then they should talk about, changing and talk about changing on ground and, getting things on ground and all of that. And in the meantime, before I end, you see, I think Gandhis should understand that possibly the Gandhi era is not over, but I think they need to take a break. Gandhi era is not over. They have done a lot for this country. One doesn't dispute that. But they need to take a break. Also, the fact that during this Gandhi euphoria, during the sycophancy of Congress, where there was only Indira Gandhi and Rajiv Gandhi and Sonia Gandhi and Rahul Gandhi, one forgot people like Lal Bahadur Shastri. One forgot people like Narasimha Rao. One forgot people like Manmohan Singh, who were equal or possibly more competent than some of the Gandhis. I think those people, those leaders should be back in the posters of Congress. That's something that I think the Gandhis should realize and work towards. Rest, India needs an opposition. And it is up to you guys in the Congress to ensure that we get one. Till I see you next time. Namaskar.